So this is just a tip that when you approach investors, come with confidence. Understand that you're coming into a marriage and you're choosing the person as much as he's choosing you.
Stav, Erez, thank you for joining me on my show for the second time. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Okay, so just today we have these huge fires all over California. So I appreciate you being flexible. And hopefully, by the time that this airs, there will be no more fires. But in any case, thank you for joining me.
With pleasure.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so I have to start again from the fun fact because it's so much fun. And the first fun fact that you told me about is the fact that you're able to hold boiling pots without getting burned. How is that possible? Or with getting burned, but without feeling pain, actually, right?
Yeah, I just don't feel it. So basically, you can say I'm a hero and this is my superpower. I can hold it and don't feel anything. I will still burn though.
You will still burn. You actually showed me before that you had some burn marks, but I have to understand. You're literally you can go and hold a boiling pot, but you're not gonna feel the pain.
Yep.
That's just unbelievable. But that's just the first fun fact. The second one, which you have an interesting story back from the army, and you discover by chance that you're colorblind. Now I have to understand first of all, how is it possible that only at the age of 18 or 19 you get to a point where you understand that you're colorblind? It must not be that severe, right?
So I don't know about severe, but I was always told that I have really bad taste in clothes. So, but yeah, in the army, just like I was in the intelligence force and everybody's writing something from the board. I'm like looking to the left, to my right. I really don't understand what's happening. And then I just realized that I don't see anything because I'm colorblind, makes sense. My father is colorblind. But for female, it's pretty rare. You need both parents
Interesting. Okay, so you need both parents to be colorblind for females to be
to
colorblind?
have the gene,
To
at
have
least.
to have that recessive gene, I guess, right? Unbelievable. Okay, so Stav, you're an investor, an entrepreneur. You ran an accelerator. You're very knowledgeable about the Israeli ecosystem, but specifically about the Jerusalem tech ecosystem, which I'm especially curious about. And today you're investing with Labs02. So I'd love to start off with your journey. Take me back to the old days when you're just starting out your entrepreneurial experience in Jerusalem. How do you make your way? What are the biggest milestones towards you becoming an investor as a part of Labs? Walk me through that journey.
Sure. So basically, I consider myself to be a social entrepreneur. Back in 2012, I co-founded SifTech and was the CEO. It was the first entrepreneurship center and first accelerator in Greater Jerusalem. Basically, our mission was to help young people like us stay in the city and build companies and startups. And there were no startups in the city back then.
So
Later on,
like any pitch, like what is the pain point? Like why do you have to create different mechanisms to help to have people stay in Jerusalem? I love Jerusalem. Why would people leave it?
So I think that the biggest problem for young people was basically employment. And so you can work for the government, but if you want to do anything else, and if you have an idea and you want to become an entrepreneur, and Israeli startup nation, right? Um, you basically would have packed your bags and moved to Tel Aviv because this was the only ecosystem in Israel. And we wanted people to be able to stay in Jerusalem, although they want to become entrepreneurs. And we thought that this is a big, maybe a major milestone to develop Jerusalem economy. So we did that in 2012. Later on, we were part of the group that founded a community of entrepreneurs in Jerusalem. I think that the next milestone was Jnext. Back then, it was the Prime Minister Office, the Jerusalem Development Authority, and the Jerusalem Municipality. So I founded the project to develop Jerusalem economy through high tech and entrepreneurship. My next stop was at OutCrowd
Okay.
to build basically the platform for value creation to connect all the tens of thousands of accredited investors to the portfolio companies for business development purposes, but not only, also for deal flow, due diligence, and stuff like that. And then I gave birth the day after we launched
The day
the
after you
platform.
launched. Wow.
Yeah, during OutCrowd Summit. It was on Thursday. And I really remember John telling everybody I was the last speaker. And he's like, you just wait. Maybe we're going to have like live birth on stage. Luckily, we didn't, only the day after.
Wow. Unbelievable.
And then during my maternity leave, I realized that basically my dream is to do venture creation, to build companies based on academic institutions' IP. And then we founded Labs O2. So we're an early stage seed fund and incubator. And we invest in early stage companies, but also we do venture creation. And we had a partnership with the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. And we're working with professors and doctors to really try to see how we can take their technology and turn it into a company.
Fascinating. So I am aware that the default way of starting a company is, you have a couple of people who are coming together, they agree on a problem, they think of a solution, and then they go and bring that and hopefully find a good go to market and a product market fit. But what you're saying here is that with a venture creation, a lot of times you're going into these academic institutions and you're taking technology and solutions that don't necessarily even have a problem yet, and you're finding ways to adapt them. Is that the way that it works?
Basically, yeah, it's not only that, it's also like build a team. So it's everything. It's really understanding the technology, trying to think what you can do with it. And usually you have plenty of ways of solutions and problems that it can solve. Do market research. Talk a lot with the industry and try to understand exactly which is the biggest problem that they're solving, the biggest need, and then bring in, along with the professor, the relevant team. Usually, by the way, the professor stays in the academy. It's not usually, it's always. He stays in the university. He becomes an advisor, chief scientist officer.
Okay. And then what? And so how is that life cycle different than the regular startup? So they start, you're helping them do the market research, form a team, and then maybe down the line invest, I guess, because you're not. You mean it sounds like in the beginning is more of a of a mentorship type of engagement, and then it becomes sort of a pre-seed and a seed stage investment.
Yeah, so we're really working with them for a period of time. This takes time. Usually, when a company comes and they pitch, so it will take a couple of weeks, couple of months, like tops, to decide to invest. Here, we're talking about a process that can take up to a year.
Wow.
But when we're happy with the results, we're putting in the money and we can move forward.
So then how do you divide your time? Because it sounds like you have, if you have a few of those ventures that are like almost a year-long process, and there's only a finite amount of time and resources that Labs02 can provide. How do you divide that up?
So we invest in around 6 companies per year. We won't do more than 2 venture creations per year.
Okay, so you're focusing, so you're the venture creation is even more exclusive than it's even more selective
Yeah,
than the investments.
for sure. It takes time. We can't really do 6 like this year. I wish I could, but I really can't.
Right, 100%. So one of the things that we talked about before, which was really interesting to me, is this sort of the do's and don'ts of an early entrepreneur going to the first investors. And I'd love to get your take on your impression, having met so many entrepreneurs and so many companies. What are some of sort of the pitfalls that you notice that young entrepreneurs make as they start their journey and approach their first institutional funding?
So I actually have a full lecture about it, but I'll maybe pick like the best ones.
I
So I
love it.
think that the first one is really that it's all about the personal connection. So a lot of the times, entrepreneurs come, they sit down, they connect the computer, and they start to talk. So the problem we're solving and the solution, and guys, wait for a second. Let's talk. It's like a relationship. It's not an interview, right? You need to form a connection with the person, because if I'm going to invest, I'm going to work very closely with you. I want to make sure not only that you know what you're talking about, that you're tackling a relevant problem, that your solution is good. I want to find out, first of all, who are you? And are
Right.
you the kind of person that I want to work with? So just start by getting to know the person. And maybe it can lead me to how to really connect and how to approach. So a warm introduction, I think, is always the best way to go. But I think it's really important to say that even if you can't find a warm introduction, a cold email is okay. Just do your research. So go and see my interview, for example, for 20 minutes, and talk and just write something about something specifically I said that I don't know clicked. Um, try and find out if the investor wrote anything. He did a TED talk. Go into his portfolio companies and see which kind of company he invests in. So when
Right.
you're writing an email, a cold email, just make sure that's, by the way, that's fine, but just make sure it's not the same email you're sending everyone.
Right.
Because if an investor gets an email that he sees that everyone got the same email and it's a cold email, he's probably going to pass
Right.
from scratch. So this is like a small something that you can do pretty much right away. Um, I think that another thing is that you must be proficient in what you do. So I know that a lot of people are starting with like a story about themselves and how they encountered the problem, but I really don't think that that's enough just that you encountered a problem. It really needs to be something that you dealt with, you worked with, not just something that occurred one day, but
Right.
something that time you thought a lot about it. You're proficient in the field that you're talking about. I think that this is super important. I think that even for pre-seed and seed investors, it's very important to do as much as you can by yourself. So, by the way, it's fine to come to an investor with a presentation only, but also just with a presentation, just show that you gave it some thought, that you did your research, your as much research as possible. If I know more about a subject than you do, that's not a good thing.
Right.
So really do as much as possible. And I understand that not everyone can really like put everything on hold and now focus solely on their company and build it from scratch. And that's okay. You don't have to get to paying customers, but as much as you can, try to do on your own.
No, but there
Uh,
is something that speaks to this idea of being scrappy and bootstrapping and being able to leverage whatever minimal resources you have starting out, and coming with some good foundation, not necessarily with paying customers. A lot of times investors don't even expect to see that up until the seed or
they
the
don't.
Series A,
Yeah,
but at least coming with proof that you as a team can leverage whatever small resources a pre-seed investor can provide you, because those few $100,000 or those few $1 million, they're not gonna be the deciding factor of whether you're able to execute well. They might help you get there, but at the end, the team, it's how you leverage those minimal resources, right?
exactly. And we're taking a risk, right? You're sitting in front of us and you're selling us a dream. By the way, I love the job as being an investor, specifically in like the pre-seed seed. I don't need to start like I'm not going to the Excel like, okay,
Yeah,
your revenues. I see the hockey stick. Like I get to see the people's dreams. So like that's the
yeah,
best job ever, right? But I'm still taking a risk, and I do want to see that you took some risk as
yeah.
well. So just try to do as much as possible. Um, and I want to say something else, just food for thought. So I see the relationship, like I mentioned earlier, I see it as a two-way street. So it's not only that you're coming in and you need to impress me and sell. I really do think that what you can do for me, if you're asking an investor what he can do for you, is super valid question. And I want to see more entrepreneurs actually ask this. I want them to understand that they don't only need money, they need value,
Yeah.
and to choose investors based on the value. So I will say I had quite a lot of companies that I said no to, not because they weren't good, not because I didn't have the personal connection, just because I thought that I wasn't the right investor. I didn't think that I can bring additional extra added value.
Yeah.
And it's important. So this is just a tip that when you approach investors, come with the confidence. Understand that you're coming into a marriage and you're choosing the person as much as he's choosing you.
Right. So what is your number one turnoff? That when somebody approaches you, you see a lot of companies. What is like one thing that really makes you tick, and not perhaps just you, but the average investor?
Maybe arrogance and probably the biggest problem I think is lack of diversity. So I think that a lot of the time you can see when it's a group of men only, just
Yeah.
because they still haven't recruited the relevant people, but this is like a part of their culture, or just because they're men, like men, and and that's it. I think that this is, by the way, I think this is a big problem for industry. The lack of diversity
Yeah.
is, for me, it's a big problem.
No, definitely, and this is something that comes up often in the series with, and a lot of others that I've spoken with. We spoke extensively about the role of, the responsibility of having diversity from both the investor side, but also the founder side, and on the opposite side of this question of what makes you take out, what really makes you excited. So, what quality or what happens that makes you really excited when you meet a new entrepreneur and you're like, wow, like this is somebody that I might really want to work with.
So when they're super, super excited about what they're doing, and when I really love um, crazy ideas, basically. So the crazier, the crazier, the better from my perspective. But really, when you see like this, I don't know, this professor from the university, and he's coming and he's talking to you about like quantum physics, and he's super excited, and he's sure that this is the most exciting topic in the world. Um, I'm excited as well. Like,
I love it. I love it. No, I remember I had a great conversation with Joe Berman from Innovation Endeavors a while back, and one of the and their whole thesis is moonshot ideas, and I was just so inspired by this notion of investing based on the idea that you're only going to go for the companies that have a shot at changing the world. In a really substantial way. So I love this idea of the crazier the better. But Stav, yeah, you gave a tip that for anybody who wants to approach Labs02, should get to know you better. So I'd love to get to know you better myself. Hopefully one day I'll also come and pitch a company to you. But talk to me a little bit about what you're passionate about. So you see all these different companies, all the different industries. What really makes you excited about the entrepreneurship world, and what types of projects do you really get excited about?
what kind? So I have to say that we're pretty generalists. So we're excited about a lot of things. But we are looking to solve like big problems. You call it shooting to the moon, and I love it. So really hard for me to pick a specific sector. But I think what gets me excited, if it's like big ideas that are going to change the world. I love the fact that in each one of my portfolio companies, I can really see the impact. We're not impact investors. This is not what we base our decision upon. But still, like if you go through my portfolio company, you can actually see like how they're going to affect and change something in the world, each and every one of them. So this on my personal level, this gets me excited.
So take me back to the portfolio companies. You're agnostic, you're generalists. This time I'm going to hear you.
Okay. So we're pretty generalist. We're looking for people that are solving big problems. Sorry, futuristic, with like deep technology. But on a personal note, I really like companies that has an impact. We're not an impact fund, but I love the fact that if you look at our portfolio companies, you'll see that each one of them really is making an impact. And as a sector, I would say that my new passion is maybe neurotech. So I love that.
Okay. What do you love about that? Why specifically that?
I think basically we're gonna see. I think that this is a field that's it's only in the beginning, and I think that we're gonna see much more. There's pretty much we know very little about our brain, so we have a lot more to explore. And I love the fact that until today, I think that most of the companies that we saw was very you had to put something on your head, not to say in your head.
Yeah.
And we're now going to a phase where it's going to be non-invasive completely. So you're going to be able to, I don't know, like just make your brain work better without really hurting him. So that's interesting.
I love it. Okay, so along the same lines of getting to know you, I have to ask the most important question, which is 3 words that you would use to describe yourself, and why those 3 specific words?
Okay. So I would say I'm an entrepreneur. I really like to build things. I have to say that I don't really like to measure them afterwards, but I like to build things. But that is why being an investor is really suits me.
Right.
Maybe the second word will be smile. So I'm a very happy person, and I smile a lot. And this is the way I want to live my life. So when I was really young, my mother told me that if I'm not happy about something, just walk away. Just you don't have to stay in a place where you're not happy. And I did that. So I
Wonderful.
smile most of the time, I think. And the last thing that described me, talk. So basically, it's really hard for me to shut up.
I love it. Explain a little bit more.
So I think that I know a lot about a lot of topics. So I can talk to you about like all these kind of different things. If you try to go like in depth to some of them, maybe it won't work as well. But but I love it. So we can like jump from one topic to another, and I can really hold a conversation for a couple of hours.
I love it. Stav, thank you very much for your time and generosity. Thank you for staying with all the mishaps with the fires and the internet,
Thank you.
but we managed to get this, and this was just wonderful and very insightful. And stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you very much.
You too.
Wonderful.